Good morning, everybody. Today I'm going to be talking about how NRECA is securing rural America. We have a lot of different programs to support our members at NRECA. And so I'm just going to talk about that. You know, when I talked to my 5-year-old about what presentation I was going to give, he said he didn't care, but I told him anyway. And I basically told him that Dad is going to talk about how we are keeping the lights on. And so hopefully by the end of this, you all will have an understanding of how we're doing that. So some of the challenges that NRECA faces, there are over 900 rural electric cooperatives in the nation. We have a really large membership. There are also varying degrees of sizes. You have your generation transmission cooperatives that go anywhere from the hundreds of thousands to millions of meters, down to your distribution cooperatives who have hundreds to even thousands of meters servicing. One distinction I do want to make is cooperatives do not have customers, they have members, right? So everyone who is in the cooperative is a member of that cooperative. They're not necessarily a customer. There are a lot of resource constraints as a result of this, right? So, you know, you want to keep, because these are members, you want to keep the costs low for your members. So, you know, things like rate basing assets is a lot harder because you really, even when you get a new transformer, anything like that, you want to keep those costs low. You know, because we also have about 900 rural electric cooperatives, we really can't have that one-to-one relationship with every single cooperative. We have a team of about 6. So that would be really, really hard to talk to every single cooperative every day. So these are kind of some of the challenges that we're facing. And so how are we mitigating those? So enter Project Guardian. This is a $4 million DOE program that we're working with the Department of Energy, Caesar office. It's a 5-year program, and it's Project Guardian 61-7A, which is the hexadecimal reference for A to Z. So really our main mantra here is no cooperative left behind. You know, we're really trying to meet every single cooperative where they are, whether you're a small distribution utility, a very large G&T. We really want to understand our membership to a greater degree. And this is how we're doing this. We are driven by a co-op working group. Our working group is about 20 members, and we have folks not just from the cybersecurity, IT, and OT side of the house, but also from accounting and finance, operations, HR. You know, because we're trying to meet cooperatives where they are, we really are trying to make sure that everyone is aware of the cybersecurity implications of their day-to-day job. So that is what we're trying to do. We are focusing on key 4 focus areas under Project Guardian. I'll talk about one specifically a little bit later on here in the presentation, but those are our categorization effort, the Cyber Champions program, which is appearing underneath this project, assessments, trainings, tabletop exercises, as well as workforce development. So those are sort of the 4 key focus areas we're working on there. So how do we define the co-op categorization? Really, we wanted to look at, all right, how are we categorizing co-ops? And we sort of brought this question to our working group, and we said, you know, how, in order to provide the best resources possible, in order to reach every co-op where they are, we need to be able to categorize the co-ops. Well, it turns out that actually size is a really hard measure. You know, you can talk to a small distribution co-op somewhere who has the people in place, the process in place, they have tools, and everything from a cybersecurity perspective looks really good. You can also have your G&T, for instance, who maybe doesn't have people in process in place, but they have a lot of money to throw at a lot of different technologies. So it really just depends, right? You can't really look at that as a marker of maturity. So size doesn't really count. You know, so really, and I actually had the same impression when I was working at APPA. Shout out to Rob, who's in the audience today. If you want to talk from the public power perspective, go find him after this talk here. So what came out of this? So what we did is we actually developed the categorization based on people, process, technology. And this is really the crux of this overall effort, which is, understanding where each co-op is based on their people, process, and technology. And so you'll see we have five different categories here: initial, developing, defined, managed, and optimized. Where we're really going to focus overall in the next 4 or so years with the Project Guardian program is in the first 3. We're finding that those are the ones that we really want to focus on. Our thinking, and this could change throughout the scope of the funding, is that if you're in the manage and optimize side, you're pretty much good to go as far as a cybersecurity perspective goes. But again, that could change. We could learn more moving forward. Our hope too is that anyone can pick this up and use it in order to sort of determine where their cybersecurity maturity is. We would hope that the U.S. government would be able to use this potentially to kind of understand where not just co-ops, but where any sort of utility cybersecurity maturity is. So again, this was a really great result that came out of this. So we're really happy about it, and looking forward to again using it to have our co-ops self-categorize in order to have us understand how we can meet them most where they are. We also have our NRECA Co-op Cybersecurity Goals program, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how these sort of go together. Our Co-op Cyber Goals program is 20 cybersecurity goals aimed at sort of helping co-ops work toward achieving a base level of maturity. What we did is we sort of pared down the 800-53, the CIS controls, a bunch of the other frameworks that have just huge hundreds, as we all know, numbers of controls, and boiled them down into 20 goals that pretty much any cooperative can meet. It gets as down in the weeds as maybe you need to designate a cybersecurity point of contact, all the way to you need to actually install OT monitoring in your systems. My two kind of ones that I like to hit on are the point of contact one, and then there's also one in there about developing proper contract language. We all know how important the supply chain issue is. It really is important, especially even if you are a co-op, to actually ensure that your contract language includes cybersecurity within it. So those are a couple of the ones that I really like to highlight here. What is also great, of course, is it's self-paced, so the co-ops can pick it up, they can look at it and really take it at their own pace. They don't have to do them all in order, so you don't have to go through like 1 through 20. You can start at 15 if you want to, right? So it really kind of puts them in the driver's seat, allows them to make sure that they can get these sort of things done. So how do these go together? So I talked a little bit about the categorization effort. We are trying as well to sort of marry that with our Co-op Cyber Goals program. And again, I kind of touched on the fact that once you get into that sort of managed and optimized side of things, you'll note we only have one of our Co-op Cyber Goals that's in the managed side there. We're still trying to figure out whether we potentially do a level 3 cyber goals that pushes us into 30. We're not quite sure whether that's going to happen or not. Or again, if you are at that managed or optimized state, are you kind of good to go? Like, do you need any more resources from NRECA? So, these are the sort of conversations that we're going to be having with our members, with our working group, and we're just going to continue to learn about. I'm going to kind of have a non sequitur here. We do also have currently a cybersecurity risk quantification pilot that we're doing for our members. We're working with a company called Denexus that does financial cyber risk quantification. This is a small pilot. We're working first with 10 co-ops who all signed up and want to understand a little bit more about the cyber risk. So my slides beforehand were a little bit more from the operational side of things. This kind of gets into the CEO and the board and the board level, right? So if I'm a cybersecurity specialist at my co-op, how do I show my board, my CEO, that what I'm doing, the tools that I'm installing are necessary? It's actually interesting. I was at one of our CEO orientation meetings where one of the CEOs raised his hand and he said, hey, I know a lot more about cattle than I know about cybersecurity. So how do I know that what my cybersecurity person is installing is good? Like, why am I spending $50,000 on some tool that I don't know what it does? And he's right. That's a really good question. If you don't know what it's doing, then you don't really know whether you're spending the right amount. So that's what we're trying to do here. Really, we're trying to get CEOs, boards to understand from a financial perspective what their risk is. The way that we're doing this is we're taking a bunch of different information from our co-ops, putting it into Denexus's risk model, and it basically spits out a report. And it'll say, hey, you're showing about $1 million worth of financial risk, say if you haven't implemented MFA, for instance. But if you do XYZ, your risk will now be pushed down to 250K, for instance. So this is what we're trying to do here, right? I mean, we really are trying to do a comprehensive approach, right? We're trying to reach all of the operators, folks in the financial departments, HR, as well as the CEO and board level, to really make sure that cybersecurity is taken into consideration at every single part of the organization. The Threat Analysis Center. I do like to touch on this one in particular about some of our programs, because this is just a really cool one where we're offering unique threat intelligence to our co-ops that they are giving to us. So we have our Threat Analysis Center, which also has machine-to-machine connections with CISA and also the EISAC. And we're also going to develop some additional offerings and capabilities through some of the federal funding efforts that we have. We have the ICS REC, which is the Industrial Control Systems for Rural Electric Cooperatives funding effort. Underneath that one, we are going to try to do machine-to-machine connections with OT monitoring solutions with our TAC, so that you can get even further curated intelligence for co-ops. We are working as well, as I mentioned, Project Guardian at the outset here. We are working with Project Guardian to do some additional knowledge-based materials, other things to kind of show, hey, here's how TAC works, here's how you can get it a little bit more into it. So these are just some of the great efforts. There are some additional ones I can't really speak to currently, but we are really focused on our TAC and making sure that our members are getting the best intelligence that they can get. And again, it's curated for the co-op community, so they're not having to go through everything that the IOUs are getting, everything that public power is getting, right? It's very specific to them, which they found real value for. So is our mission accomplished? No. Cybersecurity is an ever expanding and changing landscape as we all know. And really the key here again is ensuring that no co-op is left behind. We really want to, by the end of this time, ensure that every co-op has a base level of cybersecurity maturity. We do want to hone our cybersecurity programs or cybersecurity programs support based on the categorization that I mentioned earlier. And we're going to do this also using the Cyber Champions program. I'll go a little bit more into that right now. The Cyber Champions program is essentially, we want to choose cyber champions throughout the country who can sort of act as a bi-directional node of communication for NRECA. So they have a better ear to the ground in understanding what's happening in the cybersecurity landscape at their particular regions. So we want to hear what that is so that we can better tailor and curate our services to that. We also want to just be able to get information about our services out there. We're going to expand the NRECA Threat Analysis Center, and then we're always seeking opportunities to collaborate across industry and government. It's a played out statement, but it still rings true. Cybersecurity really is a team sport, and we really believe that, and we really like to work with others too to kind of figure all that out as well. So these are some of the ways that NRECA is supporting its members. I welcome questions based on that, and thank you all for your time. Appreciate it. Yes, Rob.
You had the people, process, and tech.
I'll go back to that slide for you.
Yeah, thanks. So do you find that, if a given entity is kind of at the same level for all of these things just because they're kind of connected, or maybe some utility, a co-op is developing at the process stage, managed at the people stage, and defined in technology? How do you when you have those differences, how do you identify where they actually fall?
That's a great question. So that's kind of where we've mapped them with the co-op cyber goals, right? So, you know, if you do find that you are, say, initial in your technology, right, then maybe you want to go for that goal for, you know, in enabling MFA. But say again, you're maybe you're defined in your processes, but not so much in your technology, right? Like those are the sort of things that you want to do. So that's kind of how we're trying to map it, and then provide the best resources that we possibly can for folks across the board. Any other questions? Good. Yes.
So are you doing any normalization between different organizations that you're going through with some of these evaluations?
We haven't. That's a great question. It's one that we have considered. We haven't delved too deeply into that yet, just because we sort of are in the initial phases. But at some point, there will have to be some sort of normalization across the membership. So we'll probably look into that later on in the overall effort. But it's a great question.
Yeah, because when I've done maturity assessments, stuff like that, some groups are like really hard on themselves, and they're like, "Oh no, we're looking at a 2 or a 1," but really they're like, compared to other people, they're easily a 3 or a 4. And then there's others that are like trying to look good for their board, and so yes, we're 4s and 5s across the board.
Which is why it's also good to get that third-party assessment, right? Because sometimes, again, you don't know your own strength, or you think you're stronger than you actually are, right? So that's, you know, it's always good to get that third-party assessment too, and that kind of plays into also what I was saying earlier about size, right? Like when we were developing this categorization, size doesn't really factor in too much, because I've actually spoken with, and even when I was working for APPA, I would speak with utilities who were technically medium sized, but they would see themselves as small, either because they had either 1 or 0 people on IT staff, or, you know, just didn't have the processes in place, certain tech, right? So, you know, how do you define that? We're trying our best to sort of define it in this way moving forward. Yes.
Nice to see you again.
Good. Yes.
Stuff together. I was wondering, you maybe covered this before I got here, but you guys talk cyber mutual assistance at all for your group? Is that
we do?
And did you? What is the current state of the art? Do you have agreements in place for the majority of your constituency, or is it kind of patchwork?
Yeah, so I can't talk specific numbers, right? The CMA NDA, and all that stuff. But we do have members that are part of CMA. I didn't touch on it on this particular presentation, but CMA is for those who don't know, CMA is Cyber Mutual Assistance, which is a program run through EEI, but it includes all of the associations for the electricity sector. We do urge our members to join whenever they can, to actually kind of take advantage of the in-person meetings. We're working at potentially linking CMA with our TAC, with our Threat Analysis Center, in some way. We haven't thought through exactly what that might look like yet, but that is something that we are considering. Good to see you again.
When I saw your slide, I was like, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Anything else? All right. Thank you all for your time. Appreciate it.